All right, ready or not, we are live. Welcome to CBG Radio Podcast, brought to you by Consistency Breeds Growth Nutrition Coaching. I'm Joel Jacobs, and I'm joined by the guy, the man, the CEO, Justin Wad, nutritionist. And then we've got Gab with us again, the always wonderful Gab. So awesome to have her with us as always. All right. Well, what I wanted to get started with today is you put out a post, Justin, a couple days ago. You had some issues with your dogs. And you said that you spent $12,000 in vet bills on the two dogs.
Yeah.
Dude, what in the world happened that would cost that much?
So I'll give us a brief backstory. My boy Ricky, which is our male dog, the tan one, if you guys are on Instagram, whatever, he had brain surgery beginning of this year. He has like a Chiari malformation. So like he has built up of spinal fluid and, whatever, right? So he has these neurological symptoms. So he had to have brain surgery, have a piece of his skull removed. He had a big like scar, like 7 inches, which is crazy because he's like 20 inches long.
Yeah, that's like half his body.
Yeah. So we had that surgery. So our insurance was completely maxed out. Like we already used all of our insurance stuff. So that to add insult to injury.
Oh, man.
Literally. So I'm up here, I'm working, and I just hear, what the fuck?
Is that your wife or whatever?
Yeah, she just got home from work. There's poop everywhere, like all over the house, everywhere. And she's like, what? The closet door is open. So we have like an open pantry, walk-in pantry. And they got into the dog food. Like they ripped the hole open in the bag. The bag was on the ground.
Oh, man.
Their stomachs were like bowling balls, hard.
Oh, my God.
And with dogs, right? Like one thing they could have bloat where like their stomach turns.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah, it like twists up.
Yeah, it twists and then it cuts off circulation and then the dog is done. Like that's it. You can't live without that. The other option or thing that happens is they just get really constipated and they can get like hypernutremia. So this is a good nutrition lesson. They get all these micronutrients, vitamin, everything from all the food. So they get hypernutremia and you have to like give them liquids to like get it all out.
Is
right?
that is hypernutrient? Is that like
too
too many
much
nutrients?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's too much. So hyponatremia obviously is like a lack of salt and magnesium. So this is like a grave access. So it could affect your liver really badly, your kidneys, stuff like that. So you have to like give them fluids. Yeah. So it's IV and that helps digestion too, right? Like giving them IV fluids. So like get them to start to expel everything and go from there. And so, yeah.
Is that like something with their breed that they just like gorge themselves with food or something? Like,
so Ricky with the brain surgery, he's on prednisone. So he's like this, hormones, like prednisone's a steroid, obviously, it just makes you really hungry. This is also another great nutrition lesson. The reason that a lot of people are hungry and can't lose weight when their hormones are in and out of whack is because they eat more than they're supposed to, not because your hormone level is super high. It doesn't work that way. Oh, your hormone level is super high, I'm getting fat. It's like, no, you're eating as a result of your hormone levels being high, and you need to find a good and better balance between like your cravings and everything. So for him, he's a dog. I mean, he's just going to eat whatever, right? So he just ate a crazy amount.
Well, so that's exactly why I brought it up, right? I knew there would be a nutrition lesson attached to it.
Yeah.
But you posted in the Instagram, and then you were like asking people in the comments to like, hey, would you do this for your dogs? And I had to give a story. Like we discovered real quick, well, not quick, I guess, but my wife and I discovered that we are not supposed to be a pet family. Like we got our dog before we had kids, and then the dog became kind of like a nuisance like after kids. And we went on vacation. And, we were telling somebody that like was watching the dog for us, and they're like, well, what if something happens? We have to take it to the vet. And we we're like, listen, if it's more than a couple $100, like just have the vet put her down. Like, it's time to go to doggy heaven. Like, so it was like we had a completely different like view.
Remind me to never stay at Joel's.
I'm a pet savage. So,
oh my God.
So yeah, no, the 12K was just like, all right, do it. Put on.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had an issue with our cat. She's almost 16 years old, and she needed this surgery, and it was like, yes, do it, whatever, it doesn't matter. And they were like, she may not survive the anesthesia, and I was like, no, this little bitch is going to survive all of it. Like, just do it, it's fine. And she did.
Yeah.
12,000 though. I could have.
Man, that's crazy.
I could have had a new rollie. Like, just nope, not.
But you got your best friend back. So
I'll tell you what, though, I meant what I said. I've met Ricky and Lucy, and I would have paid 12 grand for that. Like, absolutely, whatever.
Yeah.
If you started a GoFundMe, you would have been given towards it.
Yeah. I'm sure people would have, but it's all good. It's all good. We got it done.
So. All right. Well, glad they're on the mend, and your dog food is now properly stored. So
off the ground.
Yeah. All right. So the first main thing we wanted to talk about, it's been a little while, but kind of the way things shaped up last week, we had to pivot. We were going to talk about Wodapalooza SoCal last week, but then all the stuff with MetFix and Andrew Hiller getting involved, and we were just kind of like, all right, we got to pivot towards this and put that off again. So it's been about a month though, I think, right? Since the event. Yeah. So, but we wanted to recap it and kind of, cause you were there, you had several, athletes that were there as well. And so just wanted to see, like, maybe some behind the scenes stuff that was going on. And so when you're there at a competition and you have like several athletes in the same competition, are you bouncing back and forth between the athletes and the, like, the events and stuff?
That's a good question. So we're still learning a lot about this, because the last year and a half is really when we started working with a lot of these athletes. But yes, there's a little bit of bouncing around, and you can bounce around with male to female. Like, I can go to DB, and then I can go to like Chandler and Jessie, she's on team, or to Sam Quan or James, right? You're not really going to be bouncing around a lot in the same, like the same two competitors. So if we like start to work with two people that are like direct competitors, we would designate another coach to do that, right? So like Coach Amanda, or like somebody like that works with some of those athletes to like be fueling them, working with them. So like, as an example, at the games, I was directly fueling DB, like got her food, got her set up, make sure we had everything. And then Amanda was working with Hattie Canyo, right, separately. And, it just works better that way, right?
Yeah.
So it's some of that. The Wodapalooza was a lot easier because I was made the nutrition coach for Team North America.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So that was easier. So a lot of the athletes that I was actually meeting for the first time, like Pat Vellner and Adler and some of those, they kind of had a good handle on nutrition anyway. It was just me like, hey, make sure you get your carbs in, like it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
And then for other athletes, it was a little bit more strategy and stuff like that. But it was a lot easier to coach those athletes there, because they're all like on the same team.
Yeah.
They're literally like kind of right there.
Yeah. Everybody's working together too at that point.
Exactly. Right. So they're all like in the same area. So that was a lot easier. But like the games is a bit, and semis can be like a little bit more involved. We have other coaches out there kind of helping.
That makes sense. So with so then being the coach for Team North America, what's like do you have to learn like what people's preferences are for like the carbs that they want to get? Like, does everybody have like a different type of thing, or is it just like, hey, this is what you get?
It was more like options, like, hey, like these are the best carbs options going into these next couple of events. Like, these are the quick acting digest. Make sure you get in one of these, right? I made sure everybody had Gatorade back there, and like, because that's always like a go-to, right? So it's like kind of it starts off at a hierarchy, right? It's like the first carb, most easiest, that is going to provide benefit around and during comps is going to be Gatorade, right? Liquid. You can always be drinking water, right? Or something, right? So Gatorade. Then you start getting more complex as you go, right? So if you can do that, that's great. Move on to the next thing, which is small candy, like little watermelon Sour Patches or Skittles or something like that. If that's good, then you can go to larger, like breaded based, like white bread jelly, Uncrustables, Pop-Tarts. That's good. Then, and there's enough time between events, you can start going to like actual meals, right? No veggies, no fats, just like protein and actual carbohydrates, right? The key is getting up as quickly as you can with that, right? Some athletes are great. Some athletes come off, they drink a Gatorade and they're eating a Pop-Tart, right? And then they're ready for their meal, right? The key is to get them doing something almost immediately when they walk off the floor, because you're as the more you delay, the less you're going to be able to get in. It's like trying to tell somebody, hey, like I want you to get in 150 grams of protein, start eating at 3 p.m.
Right.
Probably not going to get it in, right? So like as soon as they get off the floor, it's like these miniature time frames that we have to actually start doing something. So we could say by the end of the day, all right, we actually ate enough today. We actually had enough carbs to fuel for our workouts today. Like that's the sort of thing that I would say is most helpful and just important, right?
Do you have any do you have any athletes that push back, like where you're trying to give them stuff and they're like,
oh, dude, yeah, 100%.
Who's the worst?
Every single one of them. I would say Sam Quant's really great, super easy. Like I see him eating off the floor all the time. He's like self-managed. James also really good. Does a really good job. Danielle is always a work in progress, but she's done like so much better. Like I have to hand her Gatorade a lot of the times and like make sure she's eating stuff, but she's been like pretty remarkable and much improved since the first time that we worked together. And I'll ask her like, hey, like, could you eat an Uncrustable right now? She kind of gives me that look, but she knows she needs to say yes. And that's the accountability part for the athletes a lot of times, right? Yeah. So back here working with, people that want to lose weight or whatever, it's a different type of accountability. If it doesn't feel like you're eating too much or it's really hard, you're probably not eating enough. It's usually how I go. So it's like, oh, it's easy, I'm eating enough. You're probably not, right? And so that's something to keep in mind for athletes out there that are like eating, just like it's probably going to feel uncomfortable how much you need to eat. And you're not going to want to eat anything else. My recommendation is like actually get going, eating stuff right after the event so that you're getting caught up, and you're not going to get behind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Once you go negative on your calories, like there's no coming back. It's too late. So that's so important. I have learned that the hard way. And I think the hard part too is like once you get off of the competition floor, the last thing that you're thinking, like nobody is ever like, wow, I'm really hungry. Like your adrenaline is going, like, your body literally moves blood away from your digestive system. So all of that slows down. So you're not like, oh God, I could really go for an Uncrustable. It sounds horrible, but it is the single most important thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing too is like when you come off the floor, like your body is trying to pump oxygenated blood to working muscle tissue to help you recover, right? It's not like around the stomach helping digestion or any of that, which also is another reason like people just don't want to eat when they've just done a hard event or anything like that. So,
yeah, there's no appetite.
Yeah, exactly.
So from a spectator standpoint, Gab, because you've been to the Miami Wodapalooza, right? I feel like
yeah.
Okay. So all right, so you've been to both spectator wise. So just from a spectator standpoint, what did you think?
Yeah, I think what SoCal did really, really well was the events were organized in a way that it didn't feel like you were running back and forth all day. So in Miami, there will be an event in the morning and then there'll be 2 or 3 hours. And then there'll be an event in the afternoon and then 2 or 3 hours. So you're sort of like, all right, we're going to go to this and then we'll walk around and we'll do whatever. And then we'll come back later. And there's a lot of back and forth. And SoCal was like, the events are from 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And obviously there were like RX and intermediate and, other things you could go see, which is the same in Miami. But if you were there and you wanted to see the Tier Cup, the North America versus the world. It was so easy to go and see these events sequentially and kind of have a day around that. So, if you wanted to enjoy the beach or go to, a restaurant or whatever the case was, there was plenty of ability to do that, which I think was great. I think the vendor village situation was small but mighty. Miami, I usually bring like 3 paychecks worth. Like, I'm just ready to drop. Like, let's go. I want to buy stuff. I want to be reckless. Like, I want to come home. I got an empty suitcase. Let's go. And I saved a lot of money in California. But it was a really, really great experience. And I think everybody was a little bit more relaxed. There was a lot less chaos. So everybody was a little happier, it felt very much like a West Coast event where it was kind of like, yeah, we're hanging out, we're doing our thing, which was great. But I think next year we will likely see a difference. I think next year it will be bigger. I think there will be a lot more happening. I think it will feel a little bit more like Miami. So it was really nice to be there for the inaugural event where it did feel chill, because I wouldn't expect that to be the case going forward.
Yeah. What about so from a behind the scenes standpoint, Justin, then you were at the games, kind of behind the scenes there doing stuff with some of the athletes.
Yeah.
And then how would you compare the way that Wodapalooza ran their behind the scenes stuff compared to like something as big as the games?
Yeah. I mean, I thought they were pretty on point. The events were really fun to watch. I think they put on a good program. So like the programming events that they had, especially for the team stuff, was pretty awesome. Definitely some unique aspects of how they program, which was great. The vendor village was nice. Everything was set up on the beach, which was pretty cool. They put down mats, so like you didn't get sand everywhere, but inevitably there was. And then you can watch Chandler Smith play volleyball in the middle of vendor village and James Brake play volleyball. It was pretty cool the way that they had everything set up. So yeah, it was a good overall put on event, and I think Corey and them did a really good job with it.
All right, awesome. Well, yeah, that's cool. Maybe I'll get to one of those events sometimes. My wife and I have always talked about going to Miami, like together. It doesn't seem like, Gab, would you say like our kids probably wouldn't do very good? Like, do you see kids there?
I mean, if they don't really care about what's happening, it's fun. There's food trucks, there's a lot of stuff. But if they're not interested in buying CrossFit related gear or watching CrossFit events, I don't think they would love it. I mean, Miami is a great place to, hang out, but it's like January, it's a little chilly. I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah. I don't know. We might have to try to do an adult trip. Seems like that would be all the walking, and there's probably like a lot of, moving around and stuff. It seems like it'd be better for that. So. Yeah. All right, good deal. Well, all right, so let's move on to the next thing. So I've got so kind of related to Wodapalooza, Brian Spinn released this idea about an all-star game, which I thought was really good.
I want 4 teams.
You guys hear that?
But I want to bring 6 people per team, so it's just 24 athletes. I think trying to get 32 is tough.
Yep, I'm with it.
But they all show up the day before, and there's a live draft.
I would love that too.
And then they show up, and you do a live draft that morning, live stream. Pick your players.
And captain should be the CrossFit Games champion, female and male.
And the Miami Wodapalooza champions.
Yeah, dude, I'm down. I'm down for that. And if they're the same person, then you just second place at Wodapalooza.
Yeah. If we go with the All-Star Games idea, that's a good idea.
I'm super down for that.
All right. What do you guys think?
So I actually told this idea to Patrick Vellner.
Oh,
swear to God.
I was not expecting a twist.
Yes.
Whoa.
I didn't see this before. That's the first time I've seen it. I told this to Pat Vellner after the event. I said, they need to do more teams. And we started brainstorming. And Pat said 3 teams would be really cool. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then you start to think, well, and I'm sure this was Brian's logic as well. Well, how do you start to figure out what teams are from where, like what region, like you have, is it North America, Canada, then the rest of the world? Or like, how do you figure out? And it's kind of like, well, there's not really a good, oh, well, why don't we just do a draft?
Nice.
Right. It's just like the logical sequence. Like, and even if you get picked last, right? Like if you're one of the 24 athletes that go out there, you get picked. Who cares? You're the top 24 in the world. That's why you got invited.
That'd be fun.
It's not like a whatever, right? It's just like these are the events, maybe something stronger suited for someone else versus it. Put your little chip on your shoulder and like you got your teams. Right. We didn't go through any of the logistics of like, oh, you should be the captain, whatever. It's just like, nah. Like the captains, like Daniel Brandon was a captain and Pat, right? It was just like, based off of who they chose and stuff like that, just popularity and just bringing goodness to the sport, I think. But yeah, I think the game's champions and I freaking love this idea. I think it's great. I came up with it already, so of course I love it.
I love it. I gotta tell you, I love sports. I love sports. I'm a huge Mets fan. And if there's one thing that my baseball team has right now, it's chemistry and it's magical, right? And it's cool to see a team win and people be good and whatever, but it's really cool to see people that like each other, that get along, that have, skin in the game because they want to support one another. Like the thought of people choosing not just the people that are good for, at this, and this one's a good weightlifter and this person is good on the bike and yada, yada, but like people that they want to spend their weekend with is so freaking awesome.
Yeah.
That is the difference between like, I'm just here to watch people work out fast and like, I'm here to see people really create chemistry and like make a team and crush it. And that's when you see the cool like smack talk, right? Which we loved from Wodapalooza. That's where you see like people really start to build relationships. And we love the sport, but I think what people really love are the athletes and the relationships and, the bonding that occurs and, the rivalries and all that stuff. Like make it exciting, make it fun, let them choose their teams and then let those teams go at it. I love it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because it to me, that's like that incorporates what's happening in CrossFit gyms and boxes, right? When it's partner day and, you're kind of like goofing off about who's going to pick who. And there's always anxiety around like, oh man, who am I going to get stuck with? And then you're talking smack to the other teams, if it's a workout that you're really good at, you're going to crush, then you talk smack. But if not, then you're like, I'm going to slink back behind in the background here. Like, I just think it would be, it's like, let's make it fun and entertaining these events as possible and not be so focused on trying to find the fittest at that event. Like also like have fun with it. And
yeah.
No, I think
that's what's fun about these things like Wodapalooza, right? Because the games it's very important, right? And it's sort of like the culminating event of our season and whatever. And like, let's not forget this is how people are paying their bills and feeding their families. But like that kind of removes that layer of like, oh, it's fun. And it's like, watch them doing what we do at our boxes, right? But something like this really does make it like relatable. It makes it really fun. And something that I think is really special about some of these events, whether it's at the games or at Wodapalooza, is if you are a spectator in person, on television, whatever, and you go to a box, how fun is it when you go to your gym and you're doing a version of what you just watched them do, right?
Yeah.
How fun when you get to kind of have that. So this is something that gyms across the world can also implement and do in classes and kind of, make people feel like they're living that experience, which is it's just like, it continues the community aspect even further, where you watch them do it and now we're going to do it. And it still builds that community and that camaraderie. I think it is a 10 out of 10 idea.
Yeah, I think so too. And it definitely opens the smack talk part. I think that's what everyone really likes. Like if you're into sports, like you just eat up the smack talk, like it's just makes it so entertaining and fun. So speaking of smack talk, then Gab, you had mentioned that there was and Justin, this might be the kind of how we wrap up maybe Wodapalooza SoCal, but so there was the Reps Ahead event that James and Hopper went head to head with, which was a really cool and fun event to watch, I thought. Yeah. So right at the end, James comes back, right? Like at the last second and ties it up with Hopper. But then they ended up, Gab, were you saying that they didn't have any tie-breaking structure in place and they just kind of said, well,
they made that shit up.
Yeah. Allegedly. There was something about Jason got to the bar first, and so therefore that was the tie break. And I think if anybody that can infer anything about live sports knows that it was kind of a last minute, we don't really know what to do. But yeah, it was very interesting because it was a tight freaking race the whole time.
Yeah.
Like typically these things, someone starts to pull away and then a couple minutes later they win. But this was neck and neck the whole time. It was really exciting. But it seemed a little bit like we're just gonna pull a name out of the hat and decide who wins.
They that's exactly what happened. But you know what? If they were smart, they would have said it was a tie and then did a rematch. And it would have been badass.
Yeah.
They should have did a rematch at Miami.
Yeah.
But they just they weren't thinking on their feet with what if someone ties? Like what do we do? Right.
Yeah.
Made up some rules. And James said like that wasn't in the contract. And because James is my athlete, right? So he's like, that wasn't in the contract. I would have changed my strategy if I would have known that like I wouldn't have like, like you got like the rules, right? Like you play by the rules, right? So yeah, they got to do a rematch. It's a tie in my book. And that's just that's it. Yeah.
Reps Ahead is so exciting though. It's so fun to watch. I love the format. Honestly, my biggest complaint about the format is that you can't recreate it because they have the rep counts and it's very specific and it's happening live on the screen, right? So you and I, Joel, can't go and do a Reps Ahead because it's like, how are we going to know, unless you have somebody really standing there and counting your reps and judging. And it's like all of that set up for nothing. But I feel like Reps Ahead kind of came out of nowhere and it is now like, it lives in my head rent free. I love it. I think about it all. I'm always thinking about like, how can I do this? Especially like my training partner is my boyfriend, right? And so he is very large and very strong and we do the same workouts. We follow the same programming, but it's very hard for us to really compete with one another because it's like, it's apples and oranges, right? But something like Reps Ahead would be really cool for us to do. But damn, how the hell do you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just always looking for a way that I can kick his ass, That's really what I'm here for.
So what was there any banter afterwards between Hopper and James about the tie? Like was Hopper like,
yeah, but they're good friends. Like it was good. They went golfing the next day together and I think James beat him in golf and stuff. And which was interesting because we had a whole nother day of competing and they just went golf that day. Like they did the Reps Ahead and then went golf. They weren't competing, but everybody else was, and they're like, oh, we'll skip that. We'll go golf, no, but it was good. They had some good back and forth and stuff. And it was cool. Jason's a good guy too. It was good to meet him for the first time. He's cool.
Yeah,
so,
that's cool. Yeah. It seems like they could have been like, okay, here's how we're going to break the tie. The unbroken muscle ups. You start at the same time. Whoever breaks first loses, or something.
Literally anything. Yeah.
Max muscle ups. They could have did anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So the last thing then that we have on our agenda for this week is to talk about HYROX because HYROX has been gaining steam in the CrossFit community, and so kind of the question is HYROX stupid?
Is it stupid? Could we like look up and outline like what a HYROX? They have different versions, right? So like I know it's obvious.
No,
well, they have
it's
teams.
all the same. Oh, they have doubles.
Doubles
they have
and stuff like
4-person
that.
team. Yeah, but the event is always the same, which is kind of the biggest gripe about it.
Right. So what is the full event? Like if like the whole thing, like what is it?
All right, let me see here. It's
for time, right? I would assume.
Yeah.
So they call it a fitness race.
Yeah, it's a race, right?
Yeah.
With CrossFit in it, CrossFit stuff in it.
Yeah.
CrossFit adjacent activities.
Yeah. It's certainly more endurance based,
Yeah.
right? Than most CrossFit workouts. I know people have HYROX affiliates now. So people are affiliating very similarly.
Are you familiar with the
whole thing
affiliate, Gab? Because I've heard really like not great things about it is what I've been reading about.
More or less. I think the idea is if you are an affiliate, you pay and then you have some kind of benefit, whether it's you can host events or you are like in the day. I think really what it is you're in the database of gyms. So if somebody looks up, I'm looking for a HYROX gym or I'm looking to train for a HYROX, they can, your gym will populate onto that list. So it's like a symbiotic relationship between you and this list of, gyms. So essentially what the race is, it starts with a 1,000-meter run. And then it is a 1,000-meter ski erg, then a 1,000-meter run, and then a sled push, 1,000-meter run, sled pull. There's running in between every event. They got burpee broad jumps, rowing, farmer carries, sandbag walking lunges, and wall balls. So it is a CrossFit style, so to speak, endurance race. But the barrier for entry is extraordinarily low. I think their biggest sort of talking point about the race is that I think like 89% of people, or maybe it's even higher, that start the race finish the race. So there's nothing that the average person cannot do. It's just a matter of how fast they can do it.
Yeah. How many wall balls? 100?
100 for men and doubles, 75 for women. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I think they just changed that. I think now everybody does 100.
Okay. I've heard that the
Just
HYROX affiliate, they do a better job than even the CrossFit affiliate stuff, like with the workouts they provide and like the community and some of that stuff. It could be smaller, it's easier to manage. But I know gyms that are affiliated with both. And I mean, that's one thing to, so I guess, mention from what I've heard. Right. But yeah, it seems like obviously a lot of running, pretty long event. How long does it take people usually? Like an hour or?
Between an hour and an hour and a half.
Okay.
An hour is considered like a good time though, right?
Yeah, I think the world record people are like 58, 57, like somewhere just below the hour. But of course it's new, right? So people are smashing those records all the time. And I think the biggest issue that people have, and obviously if you follow Andrew Hiller, you saw this very recently, there's no judging, like very similar to what people's gripes are with CrossFit, especially at the local level. The judges are volunteers. They're not paid. They're just standing there. And so are you squatting to depth in your wall balls? Are you following the rules with the burpees and whatever? They're playing fast and loose. And so these people that are winning all these records, it's like, okay, congratulations. But like,
are they meeting the standards?
Right. Is there a standard? Right. Like,
so if you go to a race, do they line out? Like, do they have like something that says here's the standard for each movement?
So from my anecdotal experience, they send you a video and they tell you to watch the video like 2 or 3 days before, and then you have to watch the video. And there are penalties, right? Like if you miss a lap of running or if you go to the wrong station, they're going to add time to your overall time, right? So there are some kind of repercussions if you are not clear. But it's interesting, right? I've done a few of them myself. And the first time that I did it, I was like relatively unprepared. I think I did it in like an hour 11 or something, or an hour 9. And then the second time I did it in an hour 11. But all of my times in those events were faster. So I was like, how is it slower than the first time? And they were like, oh, well, the course is set up differently. So the distance from when you finish an event to when you get back to the running is a completely different amount of, it's distance or whatever. So you can't really compare the two scores. And I was like, well, isn't that what this whole freaking thing is about?
Yeah,
that
to try to equilibrate between like your time. It's kind of like a marathon, like, I guess there's variability within marathons though, right?
There
like
is, for sure.
Ups and downs and stuff. But I mean, you should try to keep the course like the distance between whatever, like you should try to set it up the same.
Yeah. They did one in Miami where all of the running was on the sand. And I was like, that's a world of a difference.
Yeah, but is that also like an attempt to try to make it like different and interesting though too?
Is that what they're going for? Isn't their whole thing that we're not different?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
I think the one thing I would say I like about it is like it's a good in between for those CrossFit versus like a half marathon.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a good, like, oh, I don't want to do a half, like, or I already did a half or a marathon. Right. I do CrossFit every day. What else can I do? Right. It's like you have Spartan races, which they're fun, Tough Mudders, things like that. And then you have this. And so I think it's a good option, in between option for people. But that hour to hour and a half time domain, it's better than just like going out for a run or something like that. So I think that this is something that people will naturally keep gravitating towards. but I don't know. They have several opportunities, I think, to scale it. But I don't know how many people are going to want to continue to just train for the same exact thing. So imagine
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like we do Murph every year, right? And that's about an hour, but there's a purpose and reason behind doing it. We do it once a year and we train ahead for it and stuff like that. Who's really going to train for HYROX all year round? Like the masses, right? I know that there are competitors in it that are like savages that are training for it and like all that stuff. Totally get that. But who's going to decide that they want to continue to? So I'm hoping they come out with new events and they scale it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
as a just an observer, right? Like an everyday person. Like I remember I did a couple Spartan races years ago as like a fun challenge. And like I was training CrossFit, but then Spartan was just a fun challenge, based off of my CrossFit, my just normal CrossFit training. That's kind of what I see with HYROX. I just see it being like a fun event for everyday people. I don't see it becoming anything like a professionalized sport. Like if that's what they're pushing towards, I don't think they're ever going to get there just because, like some of you guys pointed out, like it's not interesting enough, I don't think. But in terms of, like you said, that the barrier to entry is low. So I mean, it seems like it'll be popular for a while, and people want to view it as a challenge and do it. And I think that's kind of, when we're seeing these CrossFit athletes kind of moving over, it says Emma Lawson, Jack Farlow specifically, and Sam Cornway.
Yeah, what were their times? Did they have their times in there?
So it has Cornway's finishing time of 1:08, an hour and 8 minutes. But then he also points out that what you just said, Gab, about the differences between the
Lawson and Farlow did it as a mixed division doubles. So even CrossFit athletes are not winning these things. I mean, they're doing well though.
They finished second in the age group. So to not be training specifically for it, I mean, that's pretty good to just be a CrossFit athlete training CrossFit and then go and do something.
Farlow was probably slowing down, Emma. Farlow tracks macro. So we time, so we
number one.
That's hilarious.
I'll
tell you what HYROX does right. They really go out of their way to make their participants feel the way that I imagine the athletes at the games feel. It is a very, despite the fact that, you're watching a video of the briefing the night before, right? Hopefully, they do go out of their way to make it feel very official. And there's a lot of hype and there's a live DJ and the music is crazy and they show you a little video before you take off. It's really cool. And I think the most important thing is that it's giving regular people something to strive for.
Yeah.
So, it's getting people up and moving and it's getting people training for something and it's giving them the reason to show up to their CrossFit class. And I think that's really, really important because how many people do you know are not interested in running a half marathon, right? They're not interested in kind of just doing that sort of thing. But this is going to get them up and moving and training and, whatever. And I think the really, really interesting thing that this has pointed out in our industry is that we view CrossFitters as jacks of all trades, right? They're not necessarily specialists, but they're good at everything. And so to see CrossFit athletes at the highest level come in and get 4th place, 5th place, it's like, yeah, of course, right? Because if there were a barbell in here, you guys would all be done and they would win. But this is truly a specialist event. And so I think it just kind of really, I think there are a lot of people out there who would say, well, if the CrossFitters are so fit, then why aren't they beating, these people who run and do wall balls? And it's like, well, because there are so many other factors in CrossFit that are not here. So I think as much as people are going to use that as like, oh, your CrossFitters aren't that fit. It's like, no, they actually really are. And you're just, we're just pointing that out here with this HYROX thing. I think it is a really fun event. I think it's really great at getting people up and moving and training for something. And I think it's going to lead to eventually people saying, okay, well, now what's next? I've done 3 HYROX events and now I'm ready for something a little bit more challenging. So personally, I think it's just opening the door to people getting involved in CrossFit who maybe haven't already been.
Yeah, I think that's good. All right. Let's see. Anything else to point out kind of scrolling through this.
Do we have like a rapid fire questions or something like that?
No, we got our first live comment though. What's up?
Nice.
Oh, what's up?
That's my boy Justin. What's
Oh,
up, man? Thanks.
What's up, Justin?
Hi, Justin.
Yeah,
Justin, have you had any conversations with any athletes? Like I know Jesse and Chandler were in New York last year for HYROX with the Invictus team. Did you have any conversations with them around fueling? Is there like a different strategy you would take, obviously, for longer endurance events?
Yeah. Longer endurance stuff is not too different from CrossFit, but obviously you want to have like some intra workout carbs and stuff, like if you can while you're running, especially if you're doing doubles, right? Because your body is like going to start losing some of that glycogen that it's just using for the event, right? Because that's our primary fuel source. Mm-hmm. So getting in some intra workout carbs is good. Usually for like marathons, it's like a carb a minute. It's like a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Could be a bit more for men, but so 60 minutes, 60 grams of carbs. If you can try to get that in, like get in like some sort of,
oh, I see what you're saying,
carbs beforehand. And then like, as you're going, like drink a Gatorade in between, like, whatever.
Yeah.
When you said a carb a minute, I was thinking like an imam of like popping in like fruit snacks or something.
Yeah.
That's a great way to vom.
Yeah. I would say at the 15-minute mark, 30-minute mark, 45.
Yeah.
At the end a little bit if you need to push on the wall balls, maybe.
Yeah.
That's about it though. Pretty straightforward stuff. There's a lot more obviously, but
yeah, for sure. I think I coach a lot of athletes for HYROX events, and so my rule of thumb is always like halfway through, if you haven't had something already, you need to have it 15 minutes before and then immediately afterwards, unless I have an athlete that I think is really going to be pushing it to like the 2-hour mark, in which case we would want to potentially get a little bit more in, but generally speaking, I think the most important thing, if you are out there listening and you're doing a HYROX event, is beforehand, because I think a lot of people get nervous and their stomach is turning and they don't want to eat anything, but like 15 minutes before, get some kind of quick carb in. It's going to make a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I agree.
So do they, like, for an intra workout carb for something like that where you're running and stuff, like, are you just looking for the lightest carbs possible? Like, are you packing like a pack of fruit snacks or something like that? Like, what are you carrying with you?
Yeah. Those little blocks are really good. They have sodium and carbs in them. Cliff blocks. Have you ever stayed? I have a lot of versions of them now, but they have salt and they're densely packed with carbohydrates. Right. And yeah, like candy and stuff like that. Like Sour Patches or like soft candy, like fruit snacks are really good. That's pretty easy, but yes, heavy stuff is not going to work very well, like marathon stuff and things like that. Yeah. Just like Cliff Block.
I've never even seen these before.
Oh, they're good. They're really good.
Yeah.
I think the most important factor is like, what can you tolerate? Which is why it's really important to practice these things in training so that the first time you're trying it isn't on the competition floor. I also think people tend to, I don't want to say build up a tolerance, because that's not what I mean, but people tend to, like, if you've ever eaten something too much and then you just get really turned off by it, that'll happen with these things. I've run 12 marathons and I was like a big goo person, and up until I wasn't. And then it was like, I can't eat this anymore. It's going to make me sick. So then I turned to, for a while when I was doing ultras, it was Sour Patch Kids. And then it became chia seed, like energy gels, Humas, because it had a little something where I kind of had to chew it a little bit, which made me feel less like I was going to be nauseous. It's very interesting. It's very individualized. So practice, because you do not want to be on the floor realizing that this is not going to work for you. Yeah, the worst case scenario is exactly what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I recently helped John Woolley start to incorporate some of these things that formerly known as Make Watts Great Again, Woolly Mammoth, with some of these HYROX stuff. So like the blocks and things like that. So it's good. More people are doing them for sure.
Yeah, that's cool.
People are not afraid of carbs anymore, Justin, and I think it's because of you.
Yeah.
Way to go, man. Nice job.
Helping bring the carbs back.
Still got people spreading nonsense out there about sugar and all this other stuff. So we still got work.
Do you ever go on the internet and just like feel the dread immediately, the doom? It happens.
I know, but we're better off than we were 5 years ago. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, training think tank. I meant to bring this up too. They popped up in my their podcast that they do popped up in my like suggested feed or whatever through YouTube, and it said in the description no sugar, and I was like, oh, what's this about? So because I don't usually watch, I've never really watched their podcast, so I click on it and I watch it and I kind of scrub through it a little bit. And they actually brought up your interaction, Justin, with the Andrew Hiller, the video, and they were kind of like giving their takes on it. And it seems like they're with you. The head guy there, Max.
Yeah, Max.
Max Elhel.
Yeah, he was kind of saying what I thought was similar to what you were saying about, he doesn't think it's a good idea to demonize certain food groups and this and that. So I thought that was
I got to go see it because I have a good friend there, Tracy Tucker. That's the head nutrition coach at Training Think Tank.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
And
yeah, about the 30
I
mark.
Yeah, I know that she we have the same philosophies around the scientific consensus and what's true and what's
I like
not.
Tracy.
Yeah, she's a good person. And I bet that had some sort of influence. I don't know if she was on a podcast or not, but yeah, Max is a smart guy. He knows.
I like those guys. I really do. I love their podcast. I love the things they talk about. You can tell when people really love what they do and that they're passionate about it. And it just it comes through on that podcast so well. I love it. But yeah, I think, listen, I don't want to start any problems, but I think anybody who knows anything about anything and works with people will not disagree with Justin and his take and our take.
Yeah. I know that too. It's just about getting those other people to see like what the real mechanism as to why people and metabolic disease exists.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the thing with me being the observer watching both sides is like you guys have the same goal of getting people healthy and reducing these chronic diseases. Your path of getting there might be a little bit different, but I felt like the kid, whose parents are going through a divorce and just like, I'm like, why are you guys fighting? So I felt
I really don't think that there's anybody out there eating no sugar at all.
Yeah.
Same.
So no, I'm not even trying to be cocky with this. I am correct. I am correct. I know I'm correct about the whole thing. Period.
Yeah.
It's not even that. That's it. So, yeah, that's all. It's that simple, really.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, we got another one here. It says I'm overweight right now. The goal is Ironman, but CrossFit sounds cool too. Great channel, by the way.
Here, what's up, man? Cool. Yeah, I think if you hit us up on CBG, I'll send you our fat loss training and guide. I think that's something that could be really beneficial for you. It has like some of the core trainings around what we teach in our program to help people start obviously losing some weight. That's going to help a lot with CrossFit. It's going to help a lot with the Ironman. If you can get your body weight in a more consistent area where we know the gymnastics components of CrossFit, are going to largely depend upon your weight and body fat percentage improving, and then also in the HYROX stuff as well and your Ironman stuff. So yeah, hit me up. DM us the word fat loss. I'll send over something to you, bro.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Anybody else got anything else? That's all I got for today.
It's a good one. Nope.
All right. Good deal. So a couple house cleaning, I guess, with CBG is let me bring up the little ticker here. So you can go to consistencybreedsgrowth.com. There should be a link in the description of this video too that you can click if you want to set up a call. And for this month of October, you've got a crazy deal going on, Justin, for current clients or past clients. Am I saying that right? Past clients count too?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it's a referral program where if you refer somebody, so if you're listening to this and you're a current or past client, if you refer somebody and you get them, do they have to sign up? I assume they have to sign up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if they sign up, Justin will pay you $250 for the referral. So
I am.
I don't know if he's like trying to go bankrupt or something or what, but like I'm like, dang, $250. So with that also said, if you're watching this podcast and you're not a current client of CBG and you do a call and you do sign up, tell them Joel Jacobs sent you, because I'm trying to get paid, y'all. I'm trying to get that bread. So give me your referrals. No shame. I will take all the referrals that I can get. So there you go. That's the promotion right now for current and past clients. Oh, I say that because I am a current client. Thank you very much. So so I count. All right. I'm not getting special treatment. But that's all we got for you this week. Any other announcements CBG wise you want to give, Justin, before we cut out for this week?
We just signed a new athlete, huge athlete. It'll be announced soon. I'm not going to release it right now, but be ready. It's going to be big. So
all right, well, there you go, a little teaser about a brand new athlete coming to CBG, because they know not to track macros. So for Justin, the WOD nutritionist, for Gab, I'm Joel Jacobs, and we'll catch you next time. See you guys.